Okay, I think we have had the 5 minutes break, so maybe we can start again with the first session, if everybody's okay with that. I would like to welcome you again to the Foratom conference, Nuclear Europe, and especially to the first session, which is entitled Public Opinion of Nuclear for or Against. And together we will explore and debate key issues affecting society and how they influence the view of the public, of the public's view of nuclear power and the nuclear industry as a whole. The topics that we will touch upon is climate change, gender balance, youth involvement, and engagement of local communities. So we have a lot to explore. Allow me to first briefly introduce the program of the session. First, we will hear a presentation from Atte Harjanne, Green member of the Finnish National Parliament. Prior to this position, he worked for the Finnish Meteorological Institute, and he also wrote a much debated study on why renewables cannot really be called renewables. He will focus in his presentation on how the public opinion about nuclear power evolved in his country and how the Finnish Green Party has changed its opinion on the climate change. Following Atte's presentation, we will have a debate among our panelists. We have three distinguished ladies, so I will introduce briefly shortly after Atte finishes his presentation, and then we will have a debate among the panelists. After that, we will have a public discussion with all the participants. This will be an opportunity for anyone to raise a question to our speakers or to voice their opinion on the issues debated. I would like to remind those of you who may be joined a bit later that the whole session is being recorded. And of course, I would like to encourage everybody to raise their questions even during this first part of the presentations via the Vvox application. We will be collecting the questions and then we will go through hopefully each and every one of them to satisfy your curiosity. Also feel free to voice your opinion on the chat. And you can also look forward to several opinion polls which we have prepared where you can also voice your opinion. So I now give floor to Atte Harjanne with his presentation, and I hope everybody will enjoy the next few hours, and we will have a lively discussion.
Thank you, Alice. Hi, everyone. I hope my voice is coming through loud and clear. Yeah, so I'll try to share my screen and start the presentation. Now it seems to work. Excellent. No, yeah, whoa.
If you can take control.
Yeah. Now I should be in control, I guess. Yeah. So the name is Atte Harjanne. Alice already pretty much introduced me. So I'm a MP at the Green Party since 2019 here in Helsinki. I'm also actually a city council member in Helsinki, in the city of Helsinki, and we just had municipal elections in Finland yesterday. And it looks like I'm going to be a member of the city council for the next 4 years as well, although our party did take a bit of a hit, but we're still analyzing all kinds of results. But we just had elections, and I have some interesting stuff regarding nuclear and the elections and the candidates coming later on. Just to mention, there's the paper Alice already mentioned, so perhaps familiar to some, but a research paper we wrote with researcher Janne Korhonen on energy policy on the concept of renewable energy and its problems. So some of the stuff that I'm going to present is popular is from that and so on. But I remember it causing a bit of a debate when we published it and still some interest. So and actually the points we made in the paper have somewhat become a reality in Finnish politics as well, and I'll get back to that later as well. We heard excellent keynote speeches already about the need for nuclear, the need for the role of nuclear in the future. Just to briefly mention, I mean, whenever we talk about nuclear power, we need to talk about the big picture in energy policy. So what we should be seeing now, what we should be living through now would be a phase of rapid decarbonization for the next 3 decades, where we would see emissions falling more rapidly than they have been accumulated during the last century. And following that, we should be reaching a situation where our global emissions still drop, and we actually capture carbon from the atmosphere on an industrial scale. That is huge. If you look at the scale on the graph here. The graph is a composite of energy scenarios from the IPCC 1.5 degree report. But that's the picture, and that's the scale of decarbonization we should be seeing if we want to see a 1.5 degree future, or limited to that. Of course, that's a huge challenge, but even if we go to 2 degrees or something, the shape of the curve is pretty similar. So that's what we should be seeing, and that's why that's where any role of nuclear power should be debated, is this big picture. And of course, decarbonization is not the only thing regarding energy policy. Loss of biodiversity is actually the urgency and scale of stopping nature loss is an increasingly important theme. Das Gupta review earlier this year, now the joint IPCC IPBES report just from last week, they all underline and emphasize the role that we need to tackle loss of biodiversity and climate change at the same time. What that means for energy policy is that we need energy sources that should not at least accelerate loss of nature, and that's actually pretty much in connection with the resource and land use of any energy solutions. So that's another boundary we're facing more and more. Population is still growing, and it will continue to grow, even though the pace is decreasing. So there'll be more people on the planet, and we still have a lot of poverty, which is actually largely energy poverty to tackle. So what this means is that in the big picture, we need to reduce emissions. We need to do that fast, but also in a long-lasting way. So the emission reductions need to be such that they are steps on a path that take us into a decarbonized energy economy. We need to reduce poverty, which means providing energy to people in developing countries. We need to reduce land use to conserve nature, which means that this limits the role of bioenergy, for example, in the future energy portfolio. And also we need to reduce, reuse, and recycle waste in general. So we need to move from linear economy to circular economy. And this saves material, but in some cases it does not save energy. And in some processes might even be more energy demanding, especially if we go to include carbon recycling in this process. So the bottom line is that we need a lot of clean, sustainable energy, a lot of it. And that's the big picture. And of course, nuclear power is, as we've heard already today, and I guess everyone here agrees, is one major source of clean, sustainable energy with a very limited environmental footprint, zero emissions, and high energy density, and also independent of local climate, largely independent of any local climatic conditions, in the sense, and also not variable like wind and solar. Wind and solar are great sources of energy as well, but we need nuclear in the portfolio as well. So the main arguments against nuclear, there's a lacking T there, but against nuclear, so it's too slow, it's too expensive, it's too dangerous, and regarding accidents, waste, nuclear weapons proliferation, or then it's just not necessary. And if you think of the big picture and these arguments, then the question is, compared to what? Compared to what it is slow? Even Olkiluoto 3 with its delays can be argued to be the greatest climate action, as we just heard. it's still a huge and relatively fast increase of clean energy. Too expensive compared to what we'll have to look at the system level costs, or too dangerous compared to what. Think of the risks of accidents, waste of weapons, compared to the options we're facing, the risks we're facing if we don't use nuclear power. And this also goes down to it being unnecessary. Is like, what is then the option to go without nuclear? What risks, costs would that bring? And I think the challenges in the public debate we're facing, I would suppose that these are pretty universal in other countries, as in Finland too. So there's like limited understanding of scale of urgency. First of all, it's not just the electricity, it's the whole energy economy. A lot of the debate is about electricity, which is then again a small role of only a portion of the whole energy economy, and the scale and the pace that we need to be decarbonizing. Then in our energy policy and debate as well, we focus on means over ends, and this is, I think, the greatest flaw in European energy policy and climate policy in general. We don't need renewable or smart or customer centric or whatever distributed energy. We need to decarbonize, and these are means to do that. They might work or not, but the goal should be clear, that we need to decarbonize the energy economy in a sustainable way, and whatever works as a means to do that, that's great, but we should not mix these two in policy or in public debate. Then the market perspective is limited. System level costs are often ignored. At least in Finland, the saying goes that, okay, wind power is the cheapest way to produce new electricity in the grid. That's true. That is. But then when you start looking at the amount of new clean electricity, clean energy we would need, and the system level infrastructure costs of variable energy or storages or backup energy, then the calculation goes a bit different. That this is too often ignored. And then I would say we have biased view of risks. Nuclear waste versus carbon emissions. The other one is basically a very diluted big risk that's global, and the other is actually a local environmental and much more manageable issue. Then the images of nuclear energy are still pretty familiar. They are catastrophes, waste, and I don't know, if you Google an image search for nuclear power, you will not get smiling faces or pictures of clean future. So there's clearly that still. So the question goes, can we do something about it? Is this a lost cause? And I would say no. And I think Finland provides an encouraging example of a more positive and pragmatic view towards nuclear power. Of course, we're building, or Olkiluoto 3 is pretty much finalized, and there's another nuclear power plant under preparation as well in Hanhikivi, and then there's also quite a lot of buzz regarding SMRs in Finland, both on political arenas and then also on R&D side and research projects. So there's stuff happening regarding nuclear power in Finland. And if we look at the surveys on the Finnish approach, how Finns view nuclear power, and this is from the Finnish energy surveys. The most recent figures, I think these are from the early spring this year. 42% of Finns want to increase the use of nuclear power in the energy portfolio. 27% are happy with the current levels, and 24% want to see decrease in use. And the new thing here, so nuclear power has quite high acceptance or popularity in Finland. And the new thing here is that actually the younger generations, age groups 18 to 25 and 26 to 35, they have the highest support figures nowadays. So and I think I didn't put the time series here, but I think this is like a qualitative change in the surveys, that we see young people being advocates of nuclear power. Even the climate activists, climate like Fridays for Future movement here, there are among their ranks there are a couple of quite vocal proponents of nuclear power in the younger climate activists. And then this is the stuff that I get asked a lot, is that actually of our voters, the people who identify as green voters, 23% want to see more nuclear, 26% are happy with the current levels, and only 43% want to decrease. So we're still the most anti-nuclear party in these surveys, but even among our base, there's generally more support to nuclear power than there is opposition. And the Finnish Green Party has evolved its positions throughout the years towards a more neutral stance on nuclear power. Maybe you've seen some media coverage on this. This was on Reactors a while ago. Our chair, Maria Ohisalo, was giving a bit of a green light to SMRs, and the current policy papers or like program papers are here. So we've been moving from clearly anti-nuclear to being quite neutral, and even the policy program, party principle program we accepted last year states that the energy economy must be efficient based on zero emission or low emission energy, and make use of all sustainable solutions that reduce the use of fossil fuels. Of course, this is a formulation that both people who are supporting nuclear or against it can kind of agree with, but it kind of takes the focus from again from means to the ends, and then we can debate within the party and all whether nuclear is sustainable, whether it's needed, whether it's cost efficient, but at least we don't have a dogmatic approach on it anymore, and I think that's a major step forward. Then about the municipal elections, there was actually a survey, or there are these voting compasses used in Finland, where pretty much all the candidates running for seats are answering certain questions, and then the voter can go and see the opinions of different candidates. And there was in one of the media newspapers, Iltalehti, they asked a question of whether you would accept an SMR in your municipality, and this is Helsinki candidates. So more than half were okay with the idea, and only 28 to 2, only a bit more than a quarter opposed. So I get a lot from the energy companies the idea that there's a presumption that nuclear energy is controversial. There's going to be a lot of opposition and so on, but that's not necessarily the case. I mean, the SMR debate has during the last 4 years gone in Finland forward quite a lot, but this shows that the argumentation has gone through, and actually the fact that we need clean energy, and especially district heating is a challenge in Finland, now is reflected in the candidates as well. I didn't update this to the results of yesterday's elections, so this is just the candidates, but quickly what I looked through is that this pretty much resonate with the ones who got through the election. So these are quite representative of the new city council in Helsinki as well. And here we see that from our party, even half were okay with new SMRs. So I would kick the ball back to the energy companies and take the leadership here as well, and not be shy about nuclear power, but to actually argument for it, and show the case, and not expect that be bold and challenge the idea that you have to be kind of shy or cautious with nuclear power. It's a tool in tackling climate change as many other technologies, and it should be addressed as such. Why this is so popular in Finland? I would say that traditional explanations we have here is that we have like pragmatic engineering mindset in Finland, in general, and it's reflected in nuclear as well. I think we've been, this is part of just being a welfare state, but also some of the policy or organizational matters. But I think we've been able historically to distribute the societal benefits of nuclear power quite equally. So people feel as a society that they have benefited. There's high trust towards authorities, including the nuclear safety authorities, STUK. This is of course stuff that takes a long time to build, and only one issue to kind of lose it. So it's really important to make sure that you're trustworthy when you're acting in the field of nuclear energy. And then of course we have an accepted waste disposal solution that's going to be put in use on this decade, and that's something that when it kind of feels weird that in Europe and other countries, nuclear waste disposal is somehow talked as some hypothetical thing or a thing that hasn't been solved yet. Well, it has. I mean, we have a solution. We're happy with that, and so it kind of sounds a bit of weird still contemplating whether that can be done or not. I think it's, if you put the risks of that activity into compared to any other risks as that we take as an industrial society, as an economy, regarding different chemicals or carbon emissions or something, this risk is very well managed. More recent explanations, I think, the sense of urgency, climate change, IPCC 1.5 degree report was pretty influential here, at least. Also, the situation, the urgency has put us in facing certain like concrete case examples. Like, we realized that heavy industry here needs a lot of new clean energy. And Helsinki district heating has been an interesting case as well. It's been debated a lot because the politicians realized that actually it's now highly reliant on coal. That switching coal to bioenergy is very problematic. So that has caused a lot of thinking of what could be the option to replace fossil fuels in district heating. And when you start to do the math, it looks like SMR's nuclear district heating would be actually quite good. We have a tradition of science-based policymaking. All the parties are staying their advocates of this. This has also been for the Green Party I think a very relevant thing, that we've been emphasizing that we are the science-based party. So that has clearly affected. And as I mentioned, the paper I mentioned in the beginning, this has gone through, and in the Finnish policy papers, a lot of in the government program, other official documents, we no longer actually talk about renewable energy that much. We talk about non-combustion based energy, and I think that's a great thing. I would be happy to advocate this on a European level as well, but still working on it. But this change is already ongoing in Finland, and I think this is important. So some lessons learned in the end. The big picture is clear. New nuclear is needed. I think I suppose everyone here agrees that attitude towards nuclear energy can change. And what I think works is doing the math. Open up the scale, urgency, the risks in comparison to the options. Keep system level perspective. Focus ends over means. And I think this technology neutrality that was mentioned already, but also it's important not to frame the question as being renewables against nuclear. It's about decarbonization and ecological sustainability and social sustainability in regards of tackling energy poverty. And then looking at what are the best tools and keeping all the tools in the toolbox. And this is the I would say the approach I'm advocating. That's what I consider myself to be more like a proponent of nuclear energy. No, proponent of smart, systematic, holistic energy policy. And if you look at from that perspective, it's clear that nuclear power has role as well, and it's needed, and at least like fierce opposition towards nuclear energy is in practice fierce opposition of effective climate policy. But yeah, so here was the quick talk, and looking forward for the interesting debate. So feel free to contact me on any matters regarding this or something else. Thank you.
Thank you for this insight into the public opinion in Finland on nuclear. It's quite interesting to see how the public reacts. Finland has been perceived by the rest of the Europe as very green and sensible. So let's hope the opinion goes further than the country borders. I think the presentation is a great opener for our panelist discussion. So please allow me to introduce our remaining panelists. We have Dominique Mouillot, the president of Women in Nuclear Global, an organization that I'm sure you're all familiar with, which unites skilled professionals with wide experience and knowledge in different areas related to nuclear technologies. Dominique is working for the Spanish group GD Energy Services as vice president of the company in France. She has more than 40 years of experience in engineering, nuclear services, and decommissioning, and has been the president of Women in Nuclear France for more than 15 years. She's a passionate horse rider, and she focuses on engaging more young people in the debate. Our second panelist is Merichel Martel, representing the group of European municipalities with nuclear facilities. The goal of GMF is to ensure that the voice of the local community is heard in discussions about nuclear, both at the local level, the national and the European level. Merichel runs a consultancy company, Merians, which provides support in managing stakeholder engagements regarding environmental facilities, such as nuclear power plants. She's a consultant to OECD Nuclear Energy Agency or the International Agency of Atomic Energy. And our third panelist is a dedicated nuclear engineer, Alice Cunha da Silva. She won the World Nuclear University Nuclear Olympia at the IAEA in 2015. And she was the youngest member of the board of the Brazilian Association of Nuclear Energy. She works as key account engineer at Westinghouse and manages the Brazil office. She is a member of the COP26 Nuclear Delivery Team, International Organization's chair of International Youth Nuclear Congress 2022, and also a member of the Executive Committee of Women in Nuclear Brazil. And she believes that especially young women should be encouraged to pursue a career in nuclear science. So before we kick off the discussion, I would like to remind you all to submit any questions that you might have for the speakers via the VBox application. We will go through your questions right after the first part of the debate. And we will also have a series of VBox opinion polls, so I encourage you to voice your views and comments on these as well. And first let me open the discussion, and I would like to reflect on Nata's presentation. I was quite amazed by the numbers that you mentioned. In support of the nuclear power, 42% is actually huge and quite stunning. And I would like to ask you, how has this developed over time? If there has been like a sudden surge of support in the last few years due to the climate change debate, or if it has been a gradual growth, or how it came to be?
Excellent question, thank you. Now, I could dig up the data, but if I recall correctly, and maybe there might be someone in the audience from the Finnish Energy as well, but it's been quite steadily on around this level. What is new is I think that the gradual shift that, for example, also the Green Party has voters have increased their support. Then, for example, Fukushima showed as a one time like a decreased trust or support, but then the figures claimed quite fast back to these levels. But this is a trend. I mean, the support has been quite high compared to other countries in Finland, I think, for a long time already. But due to the fact that I would say the urgency on regarding climate change, and also the the change of like the shift in the attitudes of young people, have also showed that have turned that the figure has been grown. There might have been actually a small dip in this year compared to the last year or something, but pretty much the same overall. But so an incremental increase, if I recall correctly. But there might be someone actually in the audience who would know the exact numbers, and I can dig them easily up. But so it's yeah.
Okay. I was looking up at the some opinion or not opinion, but trust issues of regarding political parties, and it seems that it's not quite high in Europe. The average is around 19% of people's trust in political parties. So I would like to also ask you if your party engages some external opinion leaders to promote the need for nuclear energy, or if you just leave it up to the politicians.
I guess we'll leave it for the politicians, and I have to be honest and say that as I tried to explain, like the Finnish Green Party is that there are people who are supporting nuclear, then are people who don't, and then are a lot of. But what I think the important thing is that we all share the analysis that we need to decarbonize the energy system, and then we want to find the best ways to do that. So the kind of the dogmatic opposition has become quite marginal. What we want to do, and I think what we've emphasized during the last years, is try to get the voice of scientists heard. And of course, that's pretty much, if you look at the IPCC, we have our own national climate panel and so on. It's pretty much clear that they will be they will not be like advocating for leaving nuclear out, or even if they would be saying that wind and solar are more important in the near future, there's no reason to exclude specifically nuclear or take policy actions that specifically exclude nuclear power. So that kind of supports the technology neutral approach in general. But that's I think what we would try to do is get the voice of science heard, and that's also the clear message of the climate strikers, the young activists. So they are very, very science based, at least in here.
Okay, maybe Alice could give us some insight on this issue as well, because you're engaged in getting the youth or the young people engaged in nuclear power. How difficult is it to actually engage people or to move them into action? Could you share some of your experiences with this?
Yes. First of all, good morning to all. It's a pleasure to be here. Before I dig into this presentation about what we are doing with COP26, I believe youth nowadays, as was mentioned, is much more political and environmental conscious. So they are taking charge of their actions and what they can do. Youth understands that it's not enough to be the leaders of the future, that we need to be the leaders of now to guarantee that we have a future that we want. So with that in mind, youth are more motivated to engage in those discussions and take action on it and trying to create a change. And we see that with the global youth-led movements that have a big impact across many countries and all the regions of the world. I'm going to take control here just a second. This here is an example of a movement in the nuclear sector that is youth-led, targeting COP26 as a very important event regarding climate change, as was spoke by others before. The Young Generation Network, led by the Nuclear Institute in UK, create this nuclear delivery team that is an international group of people that has focused on putting nuclear at the table and create the Net Zero Needs Nuclear campaign. So the mission and the vision of this group is to have the vision is to have a clean, sustainable, and abundant low carbon future for all. And we wanted to ensure that we showcase that the vision is the same among different groups, and not only youth-led groups, but different groups in all energy sectors. We all want our abundant and low carbon future for all. And our mission is to accelerate the ability of the world to achieve the net zero by 2050 by driving collaboration between nuclear and renewables technology. Because as was well put before, it's not one against another, it's not one instead of another. We understand that they are different sources, they have complementary characteristics. So we need to be working together in order to pursue a net zero future. And this is just a sample of the international collaboration, the team led by UK, but have participation of youth across the globe. And this is the core team. We have collaborators and engagements with countries from Chile, Argentina, Brazil, like myself, to Nigeria, Philippines, a lot of European countries, US, Canada. It's all together with the same goal. And we have developed the position paper that, in partnership with Nuclear for Climate, was signed by more than 100 nuclear societies, putting the importance of nuclear being in that discussion. We have a petition going on. We have several activities that are being done, engagement with stakeholders, policymakers, social media outreach, and podcasts, webinars, and all the activities that we are able to gather with this international collaboration that we have in order to send our message to get support inside the nuclear field, but also, more importantly, showcase that the nuclear needs to be part of that discussion to people outside of our field, to people that are the decision makers that will be discussing at COP26 this year in November. And we are motivating others to be part of that as well. We are not doing all by ourselves, and we are motivating youth. In these countries that I mentioned, youth is leading the discussion there. Youth is engaging with people there to showcase that petition, to showcase that position paper, to discuss the need of nuclear. And there is different scenarios. Some of the countries already have nuclear power. Some of the countries are considering nuclear power. So we tailor our message and tailor our discussion with them regarding that. And we are seeing a lot of young people getting motivated because they understand that nuclear is part of the solution. Nuclear is part of the future that we want for everyone. So when they understand that, it's easier to motivate them to take action. So aligning the nuclear technology to the future that we want and showing to them that is part of that the future that they want needs to have nuclear, otherwise we are not going to achieve that. It's very, it has a lot of results in getting them motivating in joining this or the actions.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can ask Dominique, because usually in public opinion polls, the women tend to score much lower in trust of nuclear power than men. It might be because the majority of workforce in the nuclear power is male. What are the current trends that you see as a president of the WIN Global? Has it been changing recently? Or how has it developed?
Okay, thank you. Let me introduce in 1 minute Women in Nuclear Global, and then I will answer to your question, okay? So Women in Nuclear Global is an international legal organization registered beside the Vienna administration. WIN has currently around 35,000 members from more than 140 countries, which is very significant. Our mission is to develop a dialogue with the public to promote awareness and education of the contribution of nuclear technologies to public and society, and especially why nuclear energy is necessary to achieve net zero by 2050. Our mission is as well to promote interest in nuclear engineering, science, and other nuclear-related professions, especially among women and young people, and to achieve in diversity and in particular gender balance in nuclear science professions. So to answer to your question, I would say that I see a very positive evolution with more women in the nuclear industry, especially, but not only, in high-level positions, top management, decision makers, and high-level expertise in safety, security, international relations, nuclear medicine, health physics, research, etc. And I am impressed by the competencies of these women, among them young women. Within WIN Global, we have more and more new members, young members with high level of expertise working in nuclear industry and who are very proactive. And I would like to give you some examples, just as an image of what we are positively facing. 2 weeks ago, in partnership with IAEA, we have launched WINC, which means Women in Nuclear Security Initiative. And WINC was born to promote and strengthen the involvement of women in nuclear security worldwide, as well as to enhance the attractiveness of nuclear security jobs and careers to women, especially for the next generation, and then attract talents. IAEA will bring its network in security education, security support, and security guidance. Another example, 3 months ago, WIN Morocco organized a webinar on the governance in nuclear, whose goal was inspiring women. Witness of 8 high-level female professionals in different areas of nuclear sector. And this webinar was organized for students and young professionals, and to present a set of concrete recommendations to achieve gender equality, to join nuclear careers and sector, and to overcome the obstacles in terms of gender issues. A few months ago, we have had as well a collaboration with African Commission on Nuclear Energy, only with female attendants, not necessarily working already in nuclear sector. Or in Chile, we have had a collaboration with the Ministry of Energy, and the theme was Energy plus Women. So I could give you more examples, but just to explain that in communicating positively and being ourselves examples of the wide range of careers opportunities in nuclear industry, we can attract female talents and we can offer our networks. And it's for this reason, since I have been president of WIN Global, I have launched and created the Young Generation Group in WIN Global, which collaborates and works with the Young Generation Network, and Alice knows it very well. This group is very active, brings new ideas, communicate with other young people, use social medias, launches projects, and we involve them in all our actions. We mentor them and we develop their leadership, because we think it's extremely important to develop the leadership of the young generation. And for that, we have started a first collaboration with an Institute of Entrepreneurship of Madrid to train and bring leadership courses to our young generation. So it's what I would like to say to answer to this question, and I am really very optimistic.
That's good to hear. I would also like to engage our third panelist, Marichel, who represents the GMF work. We started off by saying that women are usually very reserved in liking their nuclear power, nuclear power. On the other hand, usually communities or localities with nuclear infrastructure tend to be very positive about it. So could you give us some examples from the European countries which are represented by GMF about how these municipalities deal with nuclear topics, and what are their differences, what unites them? Just your microphone is off. We still can't hear you. Are you having trouble with the microphone? Okay, so let me give you some time to solve the problem. And let me ask the remaining panelists, so all of you, Alice, Atta, and Dominika. Usually the people are complaining that nuclear professionals use very technical language, very scientific, and they are not easily understood. What's your opinion on this, if it's true, and what's your offer? How would you offer to solve this problem? We can start with Atta.
Yeah, I think that is sometimes an issue, and it also has something to do with the framing, how we talk about nuclear power. So you talk about risks, and often with risks, and then whether no matter how small you say the risks are, it still gets into your mind as how there's a risk involved. You don't talk about wind power, solar power with the risks as the first thing in mind. But what I think helps here is all kinds of visualizations that show, for example, the energy density, what's the actual volume of the waste, and so on. These figures and illustrations are, or land use and stuff like that. These are very powerful in communicating the technical aspects in the end, and the key messages. So I think that's two things. I mean, I appreciate a lot of all the engineers and scientists who have all the expertise, and they should openly talk about that. But visualizations of the scales, that would be really important, and also to remember not to talk about it as a form of energy, not as a potential source of risk.
Okay, Alice, your thoughts about, as a young nuclear engineer, how to talk to young people about nuclear power so they understand?
Yeah, I think it is true. We tend to be too technical, myself included sometimes. As nuclear professionals, sometimes the terminology is embedded on our vocabulary, and we don't notice that some terminology may not be as translatable to others as we would think. So it is essential that we tailor our message to the public that we are talking to. in the situation that we are, because we need to, when talking to the public and when talking to youth, we need to develop a relationship with the public. And if they don't understand what you were saying, if they don't understand, if they don't feel they are part of the dialogue because they don't understand what it's being said, we don't develop that relationship. And as Atne perfectly put, we need to celebrate our benefits more. We need to showcase what nuclear technology brings and not start with the risk or we are safe, we are safe, we are safe. Because if you only talk about safety, that triggers something. Why are you trying to convince me so hard that it's safe? Let's celebrate the benefits. Let's talk about everything that it brings. I believe also we need to use the modern tools to promote nuclear technology, engage in social media and other channels, get out of the nuclear box and go to other locations, other media that are talking about different topics, but they have some alignment with what nuclear brings and how nuclear technology can be implemented. And also to attract youth, we need to start early. We need to be engaging in schools. We need to be talking and teaching teachers because they are multipliers of knowledge. We need to be transparently open and bringing people to visit. We have visitor centers, so promote that as an option. In Brazil, we have a project that I created called Nuclear Ambassadors. That is a nationwide project that gets youth to engage in multiple activities that they create, talking to the public, going to universities and schools, technical courses, promoting nuclear. And during Science Week that I lead in Brazil as well, one of those groups of the Nuclear Ambassador was able to bring 500 kids to a university in one day to have a nuclear day, just talking about technology, and not only a lecture format, but they were able to have activities, games, engaging them, and they left that day with a much broader knowledge of what nuclear was, leverage the wow factor of the power of an atom. So we need to start early. We need to use a modern language. We need to tailor our message to the audience. We need to build relationships. And we need to understand that for the public, risk is not a number. Like for us technical professionals, we know statistically the risk of something, but they have a different perception of that. They have a feelings toward that. And if they are fearful, they won't be pro that technology. So building a relationship of trust, like was said in the keynote speakers, like was said here in this panel, is very important. And in order to do that, we need to practically communicate and start a conversation where we speak, but we also hear from them.
Yes. Dominique, would you like to add something as a experienced professional? How do you talk to women who know nothing about nuclear power?
So I think that Alice, as a brilliant young nuclear engineer, said a lot. And I agree with Ate and Alice. When we talk about nuclear, we always talk about risks, and we want always to justify ourselves, which is really a problem. We are always justifying ourselves. So what we are doing, for instance, in WIN, in our different chapters, locally, we have regular conferences with the public to show the different applications of nuclear. So it can be a conference on art, it can be a conference on astronomy, it can be a conference on medicine, it can be a conference on energy, and it's a way to show that nuclear is something very useful for the community, and that we can talk of nuclear, not always talking of risk or talking of waste, as Ate was saying previously. And for us, we communicate on that way with regular local conferences in the different countries and many initiatives of this type. And I think it's very helpful to give examples of the different kinds of applications of nuclear energy, you know.
Okay, thank you. We have Marichel again. Shall we try if it works now?
I think it should work now. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Yes, finally. Sorry, I had to change computer. Apologies for this. Always these technical problems. Well, as I try to say, first of all, I would like to thank Foratom and particularly Berta Picamal, who kindly invited me and gave me this opportunity to speak at your Foratom annual event. So I speak as a coordinator of the group of European municipalities with nuclear facilities. Let me just say a few words also about GMF. This is a group of elected representatives at local level, which was established in the year 2000. So already we have some experience, 21 years, which we represent territories with nuclear facilities in 13 countries. These are Belgium, Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Finland, Hungary, Netherlands, Slovenia, Slovakia, Spain, Sweden, Romania, Russia, and the UK. And we are also in conversation with France and Germany, which we hope will finally join. So we have completely different realities in Europe. We've seen this from our Finnish colleague, but our objective in GMF is to be the voice of the local level in nuclear matters in Europe, to promote transparency, but also engagement with regard to nuclear in decision-making. And we seek to influence policy and strategy which affects the local level on nuclear matters. And finally, we exchange experience, we share experience among the members, we learn from each other. And let me just say, when I saw the title of this session, I must confess I was a bit frustrated, thinking, oh my God, this is a really old-fashioned debate. No, the question is not really for or against nuclear, because in our members, we see that they already live with nuclear. So this is not really the question. The question is how we live with the nuclear, how the citizens live with the nuclear, how they can establish a sustainable relationship with nuclear facilities, with the operators in their territories, how they can participate in the decisions related to the nuclear facilities which affect their lives, and how they can have access to timely information, how they should be informed, when they should be informed should an incident happen, for example. So since the beginning, GMF has tried to, when we are invited to this kind of forum, to explain how civil society lives with nuclear energy in everyday life, which are the challenges, which are the benefits, and which are the drawbacks. And this reality, as I was saying, is different in different countries. So in most cases, we see citizens are not really well prepared in case of an emergency, or the legislation put in practice at European level is really transposed very differently at local level. The levels of public participation in decision-making are differently interpreted and applied in different countries. So trust in the operator, in the authorities, as we see in Finland, is completely different in Romania. So this creates a lot of challenges, obviously, in terms of communication and of living with nuclear facilities. But GMF, this association, believes that they do represent an important part of civil society, which is precisely very knowledgeable on nuclear energy normally, and they are or they can be a host to future energy facilities, and not only nuclear. So from this exchange of experience, we have realized that that nuclear industry often, they talk a lot among themselves, but the reality of nuclear is beyond nuclear industry and is beyond also the local level. So it really needs to be addressed also at local level, at national level, at European level. So, but in the end, where a facility is located is at the local level. So we feel that at the local level, local communities are always a bit unrest. So we would like to emphasize the idea that GMF representatives, the local authorities, are probably the best ambassadors of nuclear energy. So they can listen, they can talk to society, they know what are the concerns about the nuclear energy, They know what is important to the society, and they think they have a lot to offer, not only to nuclear industry, but also to the European Commission, to the researchers as intermediaries of civil society in nuclear areas. So we believe not enough consideration is given to the local level, and we would really like to claim this role of best ambassadors of the local level. Obviously, we are interested in 3 pillars. We always say, first, ensuring safety of nuclear installation. We want to be good neighbors with the nuclear installation. So whenever you have a good neighbor, you expect them to give you salt when you need it, but also to have a nice relationship, to have sometimes dinner together, to have confidence in each other that you are not going to create problems for the community to live peacefully. The second pillar is participation in being engaged in decision making in issues which concern the cities, the villages, because usually there are small villages in rural areas. And finally, the socio-economic activity is also important. So they are not really strong defenders or opponents to nuclear energy. We also have some people who are opponents to nuclear energy, also defenders, but usually they share the interest with the nuclear industry, that we live with each other and with the national decision makers, that we work in the field of nuclear energy. So let's do this in harmony. Although at the European level, as I said, the example of Finland and Romania, the level of harmonization of nuclear issues seems really difficult. But GMF is really willing to collaborate in this. And we have offered to the European level also on many occasions, even if at the European level, sometimes we hear that they work only with the states. So we feel that we are not heard enough at the European level. This is why we have established a lot of collaboration now, as Director General Grossi was saying, with the IAEA. We are working a lot in this kind of project at the international level, and with Russia and with Canada. So we would like also to offer the opportunity to work with GMF on trying to structure national dialogues on not only nuclear, but on actually the energy mix, including the nuclear option. We are also interested in the field of radioactive waste management and decommissioning. One of our members is Eurajoki, so in Finland, so you see. And finally, on improving emergency preparedness and response in member states. So we want to be a channel of collaboration with institutions, with the industry at European and national level, and to work on all these areas. Sorry and apologies again for the technical issues, but I'm now fully integrated in the debate. So.
It's fine. Thank you. I think the time is moving really fast, so we can now open the public discussion with all our participants. We have had some questions coming in for the speakers, and please keep on sending them and raising them, because I think this is a unique opportunity to have these 4 very interesting panelists to answer them. The first question is to Ate. Is Finnish Green Party active in nuclear debate at the EU level, for example, in the European Parliament? Is there a detectable shift in views? So Ate, could you answer?
Yeah. Well, this boils down to what I said, that I wouldn't describe us as being a pro-nuclear party, not yet at least. So it really depends on our representatives in the EP. I think the Finnish Green Party within the European Parliament has a more pragmatic approach to the issue, but still we're of course aligned with the with the group. But what I would say, what's happening is that I'm actually a member of. We have an organization within the Green Party called the Greens for Science and Technology, and it's called Vita, and that organization is actually been pretty active and trying to activate also the debate on European level, within the European Greens as well. The political frame, of course, is very different in other countries, so there's a lot of work to be done still, but at least that there's a voice saying that we should look into this issue analytically, not dogmatically, and I think that's gaining ground. And whenever I've been interviewed in some foreign European media, Sweden, Germany, Austria, whatever, what typically has happened is that I get feedback from that country, someone who's read the article or heard the news and says like, hey, it's actually great to hear someone bring this perspective, this point as well, whether they agree with me or not, but saying that okay, that within the country in question, there's no such debate, and it's important to have it, to be honest, and look analytically on the role of nuclear power, not just exclude it automatically. So I think there's a shift happening, but it takes time.
Okay, thank you. Besides questions, we also have some comments that you're sending in. Here's one for Alice. You're mentioning about engaging the youth. However, I find it difficult to get involved in nuclear field as a Master of Science holder in nuclear engineering. First of all, there is the requirement of a rather extensive experience in the field, which without getting accepted somewhere is impossible to obtain. Talking about UK nuclear industry, EU citizens are required to get security clearance to work in nuclear field, but to obtain it, you should have residented in the UK for at least 5 years. In general, there is a lack of clear paths or directions for young engineers. Alice, would you like to comment on the comments?
Yes. So I understand the different countries have different requirements regarding how to work in any field or nuclear field specifically. Brazil, for example, is a challenge because all hiring process needs to go to ministry approvals because it's a state-owned company, so they don't have the freedom to just hire people as they will. So it is something that the nuclear organizations need to think about on how to facilitate a path to younger generations to be given opportunities to work and develop, because we need new people, right? A lot of nuclear power countries have an aging workforce, and that is a challenge that we see. That I see here in South America, that I see in other countries around the globe. And we need new people being part of that workforce to continue, not only continue, but to evolve this sector. So I agree with the comments in saying that is sometimes a challenge, and that is something the governments and the organizations in these fields need to address, to facilitate the onboarding of new generations of nuclear professionals.
Thank you very much. Now I have a question for Dominique. What do you think will help attract more women? First, to traditional STEM science studies at university, and then on to a career in nuclear. Sorry. Just your microphone is still off.
Okay, so to attract more women in the nuclear industry, even if, as I told you, we see a very good positive trend, I think that we really need to communicate a lot besides the young generation, and especially in the schools. We have to intervene in conferences, in universities, to talk with students and to develop initiatives. I would like to give an example of initiative that we have implemented in France 12 years ago, and it works every year still. And this initiative we developed with EDF, and we have collaborations. We have launched an award whose name is Femme Energia, and this award is dedicated for young people, young students from secondary level up to university level. And we ask them to present them and to present a project to give them after an award, to elect 3 of them, to have 3 nominees. And we have sponsors from the nuclear industry who then take them as trainees and mentor them. And we see that with such initiatives, since 12 years, we have every year, more than 100 young people participating to this award. So it's an example of initiative that we are managing in France. We have others in other countries all over the world, but I think it's what I could say to answer to this question.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a great initiative. Marichel, we have a question from you, from one of the participants. Do you have good contacts with Belgian municipalities in Belgium?
Yes, obviously, it's one of the countries where we have our members in the municipality of Dessel. So very interesting, because they have this partnership approach with the Radioactive Waste Management Agency and the local community, representing different interests, and also with Beveren municipality. So, but we hope to have a new member, hopefully soon, MOL, because they also have the Nuclear Research Institute and the research reactor. So we are trying to start also conversation with them. So we are trying to grow this network and consolidate it. Thanks for the question.
All right, perfect. I think we are ready for our first poll. I will ask my colleague Jessica to launch the first opinion poll for the participants, if it's possible. And I would like to invite all participants to voice their opinion on the issue. Okay, you will find it in chat. You will find a link where you can vote for the. Yeah, it's a pick one question. If you can't pick, just be sure to comment on why you couldn't pick one of the choices, or why you think it should be differently. And I have a next question from the audience for Ate. Can you explain better what societal benefits of nuclear power have been distributed among the society or communicated? I think it's comments on your.
Yeah. What I meant was that of course the big nuclear power plants in Finland, the previous ones, have been built at the same time as the kind of the Finnish welfare state has been developed, and it's a broader issue than that. So and those are largely publicly connected energies companies that have built them. But other issue, so that's a bigger issue. How do you kind of distribute? How does the energy policy work, and how do you kind of how it's organized, and how the benefits are distributed? But also there's the local issue. Finnish municipalities have actually a high share of autonomy, and that they have rights to taxation. So actually, the municipalities that host nuclear power plants get a lot of economic benefits, local economic benefits to those. And now again, someone might correct me if I'm completely wrong, but I would say that the highest support for nuclear power in Finland is in the municipalities where there are nuclear power plants. So that's a good sign. So that tells that they are somehow like that they are not. There's a feeling of like a shared issue. So I think that has played a role in the high level of acceptance. This role that the local society also benefits from the power plant, and of course having enough clean energy. Also here, an issue being a domestic secure source of energy available, that's good for the whole country as well.
Okay, before we comment on the poll, I can see that one of the hosts, Anesha, is raising their hand. Do you want to ask a question to our speakers? Okay, maybe not. Maybe it was an accident. Okay, so we have the results of.
Should I unmute?
Anesha, yes?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay, go on. Go ahead.
Yes. I'm a nuclear engineer myself from India. So I have done my master's in French Atomic Commission. And I was wondering, why are all the major nuclear facilities like accelerators, etc., testing facilities are being closed in the EU section? It's worrying me a little bit.
Do you want to ask a particular participant, or is it a question for all of them?
It's all of them. Anybody can answer. I think Dominic will be able to answer.
So you can repeat the question because it was not very clear for me. Please excuse me.
So the major facilities like the accelerators in EUs for testing facilities for detectors or safety issues are recently being closed down in the EU section. And I have myself done my master's from there, which is kind of worrying because it's 5 years before I've done. And then all the major facilities are being closed. So why is it so that all the major facilities for testing the detectors and other like facilities for testing or other inventions are being closed right down in EU? It's only remaining in France. Like it's more or less just like concentrated in France, the major technologies and all. Why is it so? Because then the upcoming engineers, there are a lot of engineers in India who wants to pursue their postdoctorate and other studies and want to settle down there, contribute to the nuclear society. They're being unable to do that.
It's not an easy question to answer. I don't know if we can, maybe we can help you, or we can, with our organization, with WIN, we can be in touch with you, accompany you, and try to find solutions, because I cannot tell more. I cannot tell you more. If you can send me your contact, I will be very happy to go further with you.
Okay, definitely. I'll be sending my contact to you.
Yes, it's. I think it will be better.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. We can now, hopefully everybody can now see the results of the first opinion poll. What are the greatest barriers in communicating with the public about nuclear power? And we have two very clear winners. One issue is too emotional, and the second, fear of accidents. Maybe Marichal, a question for you. You say that the support at the local municipalities is usually very high, but does this mean they don't have fear of accidents?
No, I think they do have, but there's a high level of knowledge, as also our Finnish colleague was saying. Usually, most people, a lot of people in these communities, in these municipalities, work the nuclear power plant. So there's a high level of knowledge and high level of competence. So then they know which is really, they have a, they know which is really the degree of safety also at the nuclear power plant. This is what I would say in general. But still, I would just like to mention something that the municipalities always, they are happy to have these facilities in general, but they feel that there's not enough collaboration with the operator, not enough information, and that they are a very important actor when the government or when the nuclear operator searches for a site to host the facility. But once this facility is running, then it seems like the type of collaboration seems to be decreasing, or yeah. So we would claim more collaboration, more regular communication and stakeholder engagement, not just when for the siting stage of these kind of facilities.
Okay, thank you. Atta, Dominic, Alice, would you like to comment on the results of the poll, or do you have some kind of comment?
So I think that, in fact, we are really facing these results, facing all the fears which are expressed. I think that we have really, and it's one of our mission in WIN Global, it's really to talk about all the different applications of the nuclear energy, and to speak through conferences to the public, to go to the schools, to speak with universities, with the students, and to do it because my conviction is that when women are talking about nuclear, excuse me, Ate, it's not against men, but the young people feel and public feel safer because if a woman speaks about the advantage of the nuclear energy, they trust the woman maybe more than they will trust men. It's like that, it's cultural. And I think that we have really a role to play, and we play this role more and more to be close to this public, young public, and not only young public, really to make them aware of the advantage of the nuclear energy. And as women, we have really this role to play, because we see that when we speak with this public, independently on its nature, they trust us, and we are willing to collaborate with all the actors of the nuclear sector to bring this contribution and this added value we have, and to collaborate.
Yes.
Yeah, no offense taken. There is also the gender gap between the acceptance of in nuclear between men and women is also apparent in Finland too, and that's a really, I think, tackling that is an important target of the whole communication of the issue. I was thinking of the results. I do feel that they reflect the same issues that I tried to explain in my presentation. I don't think the problem is being emotional. We are emotional. Humans are emotional. That's a great thing. That's what makes us humans, and we don't want to be computers. But the problem is that the nuclear power has been framed in the context of risk, waste, danger for decades, and that's takes time to change it. But I think the fact that the system level perspective, the holistic level perspective, what are the actual options, bringing that and opening up that, there's a math behind that, there's a rationale behind that, but that message itself is also emotional. Are we serious about saving the planet or not? And our approach to nuclear power is actually can be tough, but that's one kind of indicator or measure for that, whether we are serious or not.
Thank you. Alice, you wanted to comment as well?
Yes, I would have raised the percentage on the others in the pool, because I think we have to take our share of responsibility on that, as well as we need to be more proactive communicating on nuclear. And as Adi perfectly put, we are emotional people. We are not robots, and we need to take that into account. I think that is part of the reason, and Merit can say much better, that the municipalities tend to have a better vision on nuclear because they have familiarity with it, that they work on the facilities, or they have people who work on the facility. They can see the benefits close to them. And when normally, and that's what we see here in Brazil, and that's what we see in many other countries, the closer you are, the more probability you are pro that technology because you can you are familiar with it. So I think we need to take our share of responsibility in how we communicate that, in showcase that the nuclear technology has a vast range of benefits for society besides clean energy. I think we need to also include in the discussion that when we are pursuing a net zero future, for example, we also have to talk about climate justice and energy poverty, because we have around 1 billion people without basic health care in the world because of lack of because of energy poverty. We have more than 700 million people in the world without access to electricity. So when we are pursuing a sustainable future, a net zero future, we need also to give room for the countries and those people to gain access to that energy, and we need a dense energy source. So this is emotional. This is not hard numbers only. This is people's lives that will be improving and developing and saving if we pursue the technology. So I think we need to take into account those emotional factors. I think we need to take into account familiarity and align nuclear technology to the things that people are familiar when we are communicating. And take our share of responsibility that we as a sector need to do better on communicating and dialoguing with the public on this. So I agree on the emotional, but I think we need to own it and embed that on our communication with the public, and be accountable for our part in that dialogue.
Okay, thank you. We have a new question for Alice Butcher, but I feel it has been answered already by this. What has changed in the political vision, and why does it still remain challenging to get people to accept nuclear as a green energy after hundreds of reactors worldwide were installed? But I feel you've already answered it in your previous answer, but if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, sure. I think the political vision, it will be different in each country. We see Germany phasing out, and we see countries coming on their first nuclear power plant. So the shift in political vision will, in my perspective, it will be different depending on where you are. We, as I said, we as a sector need to communicate better. We have not done that for many years. Nuclear power had a time where we were not constructing much new power plants, and that time it was out of sight, out of mind sometimes. Like, for example, here, my experience with the projects that I run is a lot of people only heard about nuclear in their lifetime when the news outlet was advertised, was was showing the Fukushima accident. And that's the only time they heard about nuclear at all in their lives. So the perception that they have, what they gain in that perception is fear, because the only time that they saw anything about the technology was in an accident scenario. So as I said before, if we are more proactive in starting to communicating in schools and engaging since youth or kids, and being a more proactive industry in talking and dialoguing with the public, we are starting building this relationship, this trust relationship, and we can try to, and with that we can start shifting that idea, that mindset, because they will be developing a relationship with us. So that's my take on that. But I think political visions will be different depending on the country you're talking to, and depending on what party is in power, and so on.
Okay, thank you. Another question for Ata. People's perceptions can change because they have been well informed. What kind of communication did you use to inform Finnish citizens?
Yeah, well, my take has always, or my take on this has always been through the kind of the communicating the boundaries we're facing. So we need to, as I said, like reduce the emissions fast, but also in a way that this comes in a way that leads us into a society without fossil fuels. And this time frame is one thing, but so that, and then we also have to conserve all kinds of resources and land use, and then you start to do the math. Okay, what does this mean? What types of energy options are available, and how would we have a decarbonized energy system? So kind of coming from the framing the right problem we're having, and then trying to find the best solutions. And if you have, at least my analysis when I look at that, is clear that we need new nuclear. Perhaps my audience, if I consider myself a politician, is quite technically oriented. So that might be a bit of a biased view, but it's been interesting to see that actually by this doing the math and also kind of bringing up scientific authorities like IPCC has led to, I would say, people who are not super active in, for example, energy policy to look into this issue and like, okay, actually this makes sense, but opposing nuclear power doesn't make sense. I mean, it's been interesting to see kind of developing attitudes. But yeah, so I might have a bit of a biased audience directly whom I'm talking to. But this science-based take has been, I think, the key here. And also framing it in a way that it's not even about whether you want to, and this is kind of sad situation we're facing with the energy policy in the EU, in the sense that it's not about whether you want to build a new nuclear power plant in here or there, but to have energy policy that does not actively exclude this technology. And I think this bringing up this point, that's what we're actually doing now. We're actively excluding nuclear power. And that's really hard to defend if you have any kind of like a scientific basis on your political agenda. So that has changed. So just leveling up the playground for different technology, having a technology neutral way. I think that's more easier to accept than a debate of a particular, like, okay, we need to build nuclear power there. So kind of changing the frame of the discussion. But again, my audience can be a bit biased if I could think of the people who, at least I think, who vote for me and so on.
Okay, we also have a question for Marichal. What are some of the concerns with the local communities, which the local communities have regarding nuclear facilities in their vicinity?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's activated now. Yes. Well, as I said, we have a great diversity of countries, so the concerns are different in the different countries. In general, the main concern is safety. Obviously, they are concerned to ensure safety is one of the pillars, the important pillars. Ensure the safety of the nuclear energy and the managing the waste as well, and having access to information and having communication. Clear communication on time and improved transparency. But also, I would say this transparency is very important. I know we've said it, but engaging early enough in the dialogue, in the process, not when the decisions are already taken. This is also important to the local level, and ensuring that there is a level of trust. As I said, we are neighbors, so let's ensure that we are good neighbors. Let's work on this together. And finally, also obviously the socio-economic development. So improving the community well-being is an important aspect, and having also the necessary training. All these things take time, take discussion, cannot be shortcut. So the need to start a dialogue and continue this dialogue, building a relationship and mutual understanding is a long process, which can be lost, we know, in seconds. But yeah, the concerns are different in different countries. But in general, the pillars of safety, engagement, and socioeconomic development are common to all of them.
Okay, thank you. I have another question for Dominique, but before that, again, we have another poll, so you can click and vote in the chat section and let us know your opinions. And question for Dominique, do you think the industry is doing enough to ensure greater diversity? Are there lessons which can be learned, for example, things which should have been done differently?
I think that the nuclear industry is really aware now of the necessity of diversity and is aware of the gender equality, even if we have still more work to do and it could take some additional time. But for instance, I see that in many nuclear companies have created a female network within their company and are acting really to develop this mixity, this diversity. And I think that even some of them have done studies demonstrating that when you have mixed teams, for instance, in engineering, you are more creative in terms of innovation. And so I think that the nuclear industry is doing more and more. We see through our chapter worldwide that we have more and more young women themselves working in industry. And I would say that, yes, even if we have still work to do and the industry has still work to do, we are on the right way. And I have no example of bad experience from which we could have some teaching. I think that we are on the right way, and there are so many initiatives now which are launched in every country. So I think, yes, we are, I repeat, we are on the right way.
Okay, thank you very much. We have the results of the second poll, which was asking about whose positive opinion on nuclear power could have the strong influence on the opinion of the public. And for me, at least for me, quite surprisingly, it's the politicians who have the most, who have the strongest influence, but also from people from show business. And then we have scientists and local communities familiar with the MPPs and scientists on the same level. Maybe again for the question for Marichel, do you think that the local communities are well heard on the maybe national level and the international level when there is talking about nuclear power?
Thank you for these questions. Yes, as I said, not enough. There's a feeling that if NGOs are not present in the debate, then civil society is not there. But obviously, we need to think that mayors are the elected representatives of civil society at the local level. Citizens decide every 4 years if they are happy with how the mayor, the elected governors, the councillors represent their interest or not. So they decide if they want them to be re-elected. So at the European level, GMF has since the beginning been involved in the European Nuclear Energy Forum. We are now in the steering committee of the NF, and we are grateful that we can have a say, but we've been extremely proactive, offering opportunities to establish dialogues and the work we've done in the different countries. But still, we feel that we would like that there's a great potential for collaboration, and this is not sufficiently taken. So we take this opportunity to offer the GMF as a potential platform to address all these issues with the local level, because we live with these nuclear facilities. So again, our willingness to collaborate with the national authorities, with the nuclear industry, with the European Commission on this area, and we profoundly think that we can improve things and we can improve the local reality by working together.
Thank you. We have a next question from the audience for Atta. Would you, as Helsinki councillor, support Helen with partners starting SMR licensing for district heating in Helsinki in 2022 if there is proposal based on credible SMR design and suitable site?
Yeah, Helen is the energy company owned by the city of Helsinki, so that's the context. From this, I would say yes, like why not? But this is of course a matter of Helen as a company to do stuff, and so I can't myself promise stuff from here. But yeah, I'm very positive on concretely moving forward with SMRs in Helsinki, and actually regarding the poll. I would add there energy companies, energy industries, because at least my feeling has been that even in Finland, the industries, the companies have been quite cautious in promoting nuclear powers. Some improvement in the last years, but regarding, for example, SMRs, they were in cabinet discussions I had with the people from these industries, hello to everyone there in the audience, that the matter was that there's this expectation that people would not accept this, that there would be political opposition or there would be public citizen opposition. And when I look at the surveys, I hear the conversation I've had with people, or I look at the polls and elections, it simply isn't that. It isn't that big. So so I would like to see energy companies be vocal about the issues and show some leadership here, because otherwise we're in kind of risking a chicken and egg situation where there is potential in this technology, but no one has the kind of leadership to say that actually we need to do things. We need to start updating our legislation so that, for example, SMRs are possible. We need to make sure that the regulatory framework in EU in national level is supporting all kinds of low carbon energy and so on. So, but I would definitely add. I mean, politicians, we the responsibility is ultimately ours, but it would help if we would also see the signal and kind of honest, open appraisal of nuclear power from the industry as well.
Okay. For me, quite surprising was also the people from show business. Dominique, maybe you can tell us, do you engage people from show business in your talks for women?
No, we have not done it yet. But to speak very frankly, we thought about, a few months ago, thinking that it could be very worthwhile to have people from the show business to support Win Global actions. And so we did not do it up to now because we have to reach these people, but we are thinking of, I hope we will succeed, and that we will have some examples to demonstrate in the next conference with Foratom.
Oh, we are looking forward to it. Okay, we have a question from the audience from Marichal. What is the impact on local communities when nuclear facilities are shut down? Do they receive some compensations?
Well, actually, we had a seminar online which can be accessed at the GMF webpage, which I will write down in a minute. And we've seen that one of the main concerns is that, well, there's a great impact, obviously, in terms of reducing employment, loss of competences, loss of knowledge, the uncertainty of what will happen with the land, the loss of reducing the property value, etc. Lots of impacts. And but these are, in some cases, we had the case of Fessenheim, for example, in France, the first nuclear power plant, and it was a political decision most of the time to be decommissioned. And for the local level, it's quite a surprise that this is decided this way, that they don't have a role in the decision making, and that planning is not really done, and that the impact goes to the local level. So the local level would like to have a say in that. In terms of whether they receive compensation, the compensation is not really balancing the loss for the territory. So, but this is an interesting topic which we will have to face in the very near future. We see the case of Germany, and that's why we insist in Germany becoming part of GMF, because they didn't have any say. They suddenly, the national government decided they will close down nuclear power plants. Most mayors are in favor of prolonging the lifespan of the nuclear facilities, but they don't have a say on that. So let's hope this could be a topic for the future.
Yes, definitely. We have another question for Alice. Difference in tackling and managing the nuclear waste in different countries. This has created lack of trust to the sector and can always be used as a fact against nuclear power. How can we change this?
Great question. If I may just comment on the poll and then jump on the question.
Yes.
One thing that I believe was also said on the chat is the importance of using social media and influencers on getting the youth to engage in this conversation. And it reminded me of a few situations that we went through as a COP26 nuclear delivery team. We had prepared a video explaining what COP was. And then this group of South Korea singers, Blackpink, they spoke about COP26. They were not speaking about nuclear. They were speaking about the importance of this event for climate change. And a lot of youth that was following Blackpink that were interested in knowing more, they reached out to internet, to social media, to find out what was that they were talking about. And they end up in our video on YouTube. And we received a lot of comments saying thank you, because they now understand what the event was about. And we see these people that are outside of the nuclear sector. They are independent from us, like they are not nuclear professionals, but they have the same goals and the same causes of this sustainable future. And when they speak, this independence also brings in some support, because they are speaking because they believe and they trust that this is better for the future, and not only because they work in that field. And that's the impression that we see some people having, that sometimes we are pro a technology because we work, and most of the time is the other way around. We work because we believe in that. But it is important to leverage those champions of nuclear technology that are outside of it. We saw the announcement of Bill Gates' new project on nuclear ripple down to many countries trying to understand the advanced nuclear technology now, because it was an announcement made by a prominent person. And so we see that this sort of thing is very helpful to influence people, or at least to start a conversation with them on the nuclear technology, because we need to leverage those conversation starters, like the Chernobyl HBO series. Here we were able to create seminars and workshops and talks to people after they watched, because they had questions and doubts. So we use that as a trigger effect to start the conversation with people. So we see that happening a lot when we engage with influencers or social media platforms, or translating the message in a TikTok video that I think was mentioned in the chat as well. So I think this is important to consider. And then going to the question about waste, I think we need to be transparent. I think Mertel very well put, we need to be transparent and talking to them. A lot of the lack of trust is also because they don't believe we have a hand on it. And the public doesn't know that the nuclear sector has options and has alternatives for handling the waste. And if we are transparent in showing that we have a hand on it, that we have options, that we are pursuing this, and sometimes take political decisions for the definitive waste facility or so on, but we need to be transparent and communicate. That's my perception on how to tackle that scenario. Waste is part of the life cycle of not only nuclear technology, many other technologies, many other energy sources have to do with waste as well, being in different types of waste, of course. But we have a hand on it. We know how to manage it, how to store it, how to monitor and so on, and being transparent on the process and dialoguing with them and showing that we understand what we are doing, that there is this process can help tackling the lack of trust. Because if they don't think we handle it, they think what's going to happen after it's used, why you are going to do this, and they don't know we know how to do it. They won't trust us to operate something, because the end part, we don't know what we are going to do. So we need to show that we know that there is options, that there is solutions, and be transparent with them throughout the whole process. That's my opinion.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we have time for one more question, and also the final poll, which will be published shortly. The final question is for Ate. What do you think would be the impact of the taxonomy on the debate you described if nuclear was not included in it? Maybe if you could explain just very briefly what taxonomy issue is.
Yeah, so the taxonomy is the EU-wide criterion on what investments would be considered to be sustainable on broad terms, and there's been a lot of political debate and battling whether nuclear is involved, and then this was postponed to the decision on that to later this year, and the JRC, the Research Council, made a review on the topic, which quite bluntly and clearly stated that there's no reason at all to exclude nuclear power from any kind of taxonomy like this. What I'm afraid is that this taxonomy without nuclear, if it goes through without nuclear, it creates the standard that this is green and this is not, and then it will continue to have this. We'll continue to be in this kind of situation where we're now, where when we talk about clean and sustainable energy, we in the broad public debate typically ignore nuclear, either directly excluded or then it's just not mentioned, which is weird. So there is a real danger here, but I think it also would kind of destroy the legitimacy of the taxonomy if we would have a criteria like this and then we would ignore a clear scientific assessment of the topic, and then we just would ignore it and go with the taxonomy that's so flawed, then the whole point of the taxonomy is irrelevant. And this is also a dangerous path, because I do see that there are real reasons for having a taxonomy like this, but it really needs to be science-based. And if the EU, if the Commission decides to take another route, then that's a problem, and that basically, from my point of view, it really hurts the whole point of any taxonomy like this, and probably the taxonomies then might even do more harm than it does good.
Okay, thank you. Maybe Alice, if you're looking at the nuclear industry from a different perspective, also not only the EU-centered. How do you view this issue of taxonomy? What are your thoughts and opinions about it, as a person who is not part of the EU debate?
Yeah, so we have a similar issue here in South America. A lot of the renewable sources have subsides or are part of green finances, and nuclear is often left out. We sometimes have, in some countries of South America, still a step behind because some countries doesn't have nuclear power plants or plans to build a nuclear power plant. They are still only on the research area or medicine, or some doesn't even have a research reactor yet. So they are developing the structure of a nuclear sector yet before discussing any step further. And the public opinion has a lot of saying that we see the SMRs being a potential solution for some countries here because of the costs. Because one of the unattractives that the characteristics that people feel here about nuclear is the huge capital costs in the beginning, and instead of looking at the life cycle and the benefits and the lower operational and maintenance costs, the constant fuel costs, not constant, but predictable fuel costs and so on. So it is a discussion. It is a very big discussion yet in some countries here. Some countries in South America are still behind that yet because they are didn't get to a position where discussing the nuclear power plants in their structure. But I think it's not uncommon. It's not something only in Europe. It's something that other regions of the world also face. Maybe one step behind yet because of a lack of structure in some countries, but we see similarities.
Okay, thank you. And we have the results of the final poll, which asked about which strong emotions should be associated with nuclear power, or which images and associations should the sector explore. And we have a majority coming for nature. The second is for knowledge, and then we followed by high tech and family. So maybe I would like to use this poll to ask our panelists for some final remarks on the whole debate. I will start with Dominique.
Okay, thank you very much. And first of all, I would like really to thank Foratom to have organized this very rich debate and very useful, and to have invited Win Global, and to have given us the opportunity to share our view and our opinion. I think that as we see in the last poll, the family is also a key parameter, and I think that women have a role really to play with the family, and to talk around them, to talk to their friends, to talk to other families. And what I would like to say is once more, women have a role to play in this general debate on nuclear for climate. And Win Global is really willing to collaborate with other organizations and with politicians to bring help and to contribute to this general debate. So once more, I thank you very much. I thank Foratom and all the representatives of Foratom. I thank all the panelists, and I hope that it will be a fruitful conference which will last again tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay, Atte, would you like to add some of your last remarks?
Yeah, big thanks from my behalf also. It's an honor to be invited in such an expert panel with so interesting views and perspectives. So it's been really delightful, and also really good questions pouring in from the audience. So that's great. And as I said, feel free to be in contact later on if there's something you missed and didn't get an answer. On the debate, just for the final poll, my point is that nature is actually pretty interesting take, because I do see that the the loss of biodiversity and conservation of nature is gaining ground, and which is really good thing as alongside climate change as a threat, existential threat we need to face, and this actually nuclear power with its density, material efficiency, low land use footprint is increasingly important tool in our energy portfolio, and that should be also reminded in any energy policy debate. But thanks from my behalf for Atom and for all of you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, I will now ask Marichel for her final words.
Sorry, thank you. From the point of view of this risk perception, I'm also a social scientist researcher, so it's important to bear in mind that risk perception is different if a solution is imposed rather than if it's something that you do voluntarily, or something that comes from the industry is seen differently than something that comes from nature. So all these things have been studied by some sociologists. So I think that recommendation for the nuclear industry would be to base your communication on actually research, social science research based, and not only on gut feelings, but really there are lots of social scientists out there working in this field, which can help also in your communication. So this is the other hat. Now, if I go back to the hat of local communities and municipalities, again, thank you for Atom, to Alice for moderating this panel, also to all the participants who I agree with that there were very good questions. And again, I would like to offer GMF as a platform for collaboration. Please don't come to local to the municipalities, to the local level when it's too late, when it's a crisis, but come when it's peaceful times, when we can work together, when we can, have a dialogue and when we can co-decide and not in the typical decide, announce, defend approach, but more let's work together in issues which can come later. So, and then we have more time to really look into the values, the perceptions of the people, and work in these matters. So again, thank you, and hope this is the start of a new relationship and new collaboration with the nuclear industry, with all these different sectors, with the women, with the politicians, with the local communities. I would like to see more of this. Thanks a lot.
All right, and I want to ask Alice for her final words, because she's the young generation. She's the one who's going to have to solve it all for us.
I want to first thank you. Thank you very much it's an honor being among these great panelists. And I think for Atom, for also putting youth at the table in this discussion. I hope that we were able to share a little bit of the youth perception. As I said in the beginning, young people are no longer only thinking about being the leaders of the future. We believe we are the leaders of now to guarantee that we have a future the way we want, a sustainable and net zero future. So appreciating putting youth at the table, and I encourage organizations to think about engaging youth and giving opportunities and putting us at the table to discuss solutions as well. I also want to motivate the industry to be more proactive, communicating and leveraging youth to find out moderns and using new platforms to communicating nuclear with the public. And invite everyone that is participating on today's panels to join the Net Zero Needs Nuclear campaign, to visit the website netzeroneedsnuclear.com and find ways that we can collaborate, but individually or with organizations. It is a very important topic. We are with no time anymore. We are targeting COP26 as an important event that will gather governments and to discuss this topic, but it's beyond this event. It is something that we need to continue engaging with decision makers, policy makers, with the public in different outreach forums. That nuclear needs to be part of the solution alongside with renewables for a clean future, a sustainable future that also includes climate justice and tackle energy poverty. So thank you once again. I hope you join the campaign and you participate and collaborate with us, and appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, thank you to all four of you for answering the questions patiently and with a lot of insight. Thank you for all the participants who have sent a question. If your question was not answered, I'm sure we will find a way of answering it in a final report. And of the webinar, and the recording of the webinar will also be available in due course. So thank you once again, and enjoy the rest of the day.